Good evening, class. Good evening, Professor. My name is Robert Slosa. I'm going to be sharing my presentation with you all today. The topic of my presentation is gun control in America. My main claim is this: easy access to firearms in the United States is harming its citizens. My justification for this is with gun violence happening around our nation and innocent people in the crossfire, I believe that gun control needs thorough reformation so that all of us are able to live without fear and so that we can live our lives and be happy. The statistical data about our nation's gun-related deaths in 1 year are completely shocking. Now, I love this country. I'm sure all of you love this country, but I can honestly say I'm a little bit disappointed, actually a lot disappointed in our nation's statistical data of gun violence in America. Our nation is supposed to set an example to the world and stand out among others. Instead, the greatest country in the world is taking out its frustration on other people through the barrel of a weapon. With merciless and countless violent homicides taking place every day, the United States people are looking more like barbaric and irresponsible group of people. Now, my first point for this presentation is that individuals with guns are more likely to cause harm than they are to protect. A study done by the National Center for Health Services says that an annual average of 30,000 deaths, are committed a year through gun violence. Roughly 40% of these 30,000 are homicides and 60% are suicides. This number kind of ranges throughout the past couple of years. It's been as low as 28, still isn't low, and as high as 32,000 deaths a year. Let's see. The Center for Disease Control says that the most common method of suicide is by a firearm. 57% of all successful suicides are used with some kind of weapon, a gun or something like that. Homeowners with a firearm in the household are 2.7 times more likely to hurt someone and 4.8 times more likely to commit a successful suicide. This study was done by the New England Journal of Medicine. A fourth study, 12 months in Memphis, 18 months in Seattle, and 18 months in Galveston. There were 626 shootings in these major American cities. Only 13 of these were justified as self-defense. So 626 shootings, 13 justified as self-defense. What were the other 613, I ask you? Second point, the United States must think of adopting other nations' laws to help lower the gun violence. There aren't associations like the National Rifle Associations in other nations. Yeah. National Rifle Association, I mean, I'm fine with it. It's a good thing. You know, I don't have a problem with it. It's just that they greatly influence the legislature on gun control, and something that needs to be covered by the government. The CDC, Center for Disease Control, has the most homicides by firearm. Oh wait, I'm sorry. The U.S. has the most homicides by firearm in the world compared to other developed first world countries. In 2006, there was a global study done. The U.S. topped at 10,177 homicides, while the second on the list was Germany with 194. So, other nations are at the hundreds. We're at 10,000. Big problem. Most first world nations require either psychological evaluation and/or documentation for the firearms purpose. So just say I lived in Europe and I wanted to buy a rifle or something, I would have to say I want this for sportsmanship or just a gun collection or anything. But if I were to put gun protection, I would almost always never get the gun because that's not a reason to have a gun in some countries. My last point is laws concerning gun control only affect law-abiding citizens, which is hopefully all of you and your parents and anyone you know. So criminals, which gun control laws are used for criminals, is what we think. Criminals use guns, we put regulations on them. But criminals don't listen to laws in the first place because by definition they are anti-society, I guess you can say. So criminals don't buy guns from authorized dealers. They'll go to gun shows to avoid background checks, because at gun shows there's dealers there, but you know, behind closed doors you can buy an AK-47 for however so much money that you want to put out there. There's also private sellers, people on the streets, dirty businessmen, stuff like that. You can also buy weapons from them. It's a big problem. People behind the street, they don't even really care about background information, identification, what you've done, have you been in a mental institution, have you done prison time, they don't care. They just want their money. So that's basically what I came up here to say. I hope all of you take into consideration that our nation really does have a problem with gun control, and thank you.
All right, well, the proposition stated pretty clearly, but then it's followed up with what is essentially another proposition, that we need additional gun restrictions. So that's kind of a separate argument. It's based in the third point in your argument later on. There's not much of a preview of what the first and second points are going to be, and I guess that's the closest we come to a preview of the supporting claims. You did signpost the supporting claims as you got to them pretty clearly, so it wasn't too hard to follow. Again, you want to help your audience out a little bit more. There's good background information on the subject. I thought you had some good statistics on making the comparisons between the gun deaths. For 40% of the deaths that you're talking about, though, that last point where you said that the gun laws don't seem to work, that seems to undermine your argument on that. It sounds like gun laws might work in reducing access to weapons for people who are interested in committing suicide, but it doesn't sound like they're going to be very effective at restricting access to guns by people who have some malicious intent in the utilization of their guns. I thought that you set up the contrast between the countries pretty well. What's missing is some indication as to why those laws would be successful in this environment, and I think that's the point that you need to develop a little bit more. You speak to the audience pretty effectively and you use your time reasonably well. Like I said, a little bit more signposting, maybe some more information on that third point would have strengthened the argument. Thank you.